The day we made them blink, Captain Sarah Chen had seen a lot of impossible things in her 20 years with Earth's deep space Navy. She'd watched mining asteroids crack planets. She'd seen solar flares bend metal like paper. But nothing, absolutely nothing, had prepared her for the sight that filled her view screen on that cold Tuesday morning in 2387. The Zephyrian Empire had come calling, and they hadn't come alone. "Ma'am, sensor readings are off the charts," reported Lieutenant Torres from his station aboard the UES Defiance. His voice carried that tight edge that came with seeing something your training never covered. "I'm counting over 300. Capital ships, maybe more. They're still dropping out of hyperspace." Sarah kept her expression neutral, but inside, her stomach dropped like a stone. 300. Earth's entire deep space navy had exactly 47 operational warships. The Zephyrians had brought what looked like 7 full battle fleets to their doorstep. This wasn't an invasion force. This was an extermination squad. The Zephyrian Empire had been the undisputed rulers of the Andromeda Spiral for over 8 centuries. 47 different species bent the knee to their crystal ships and plasma weapons. They'd never lost a war. They'd never even lost a major battle. When they wanted a system, they took it. When they wanted a species to join their empire, they made an offer that couldn't be refused. And when they wanted something gone completely, they brought fleets like this one. "Communications coming in from the lead vessel," reported Ensign Park. "Audio and visual. Put it on screen." The view screen flickered, and suddenly Sarah was looking at something that would have given her nightmares as a child. The Zephyrian commander was tall, easily 8 feet, with crystalline skin that seemed to pulse with inner light. Its eyes were multifaceted like an insect's, but intelligent. Coldly, terrifyingly intelligent. Human vessels, the creature spoke in perfect English, its voice like wind chimes in a storm. "I am Supreme Admiral Vexther of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy. You will stand down your weapons and prepare for occupation protocols. Your species has shown promise. You will be integrated into the Empire with minimal casualties if you comply." Sarah looked around her bridge. 43 crew members, the best Earth had to offer. Behind them, 6 more ships, carrying the hopes of 8 billion humans. Against 300 alien warships that had never known defeat. The smart play was surrender. The logical play was to save as many lives as possible and hope the Zephyrians were as merciful as they claimed. The tactical manuals all said the same thing. When faced with impossible odds, preserve your forces for a better opportunity. But Sarah Chen had never been much for following the manual. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Defiance," she replied, standing from her captain's chair. "And I have a counter-proposal for you, Admiral Vexther. How about you turn those pretty crystal ships around and head back where you came from? Because if you think humanity is going to roll over for anyone, you clearly haven't done your homework." The silence that followed was deafening. Even her own crew stared at her like she'd lost her mind. 300 ships, 47. The math wasn't complicated. Admiral Vexther's crystalline features shifted into what might have been amusement. "Captain Chen, I admire your ... spirit. But you must understand, the Zephyrian Empire has conquered 47 worlds. We have never been defeated. Our technology is centuries ahead of yours. Our tactics have been refined over 800 years of constant warfare. Your 7 ships against my 300 is not bravery, it is suicide." "Maybe," Sarah admitted. "But here's the thing about humans, Admiral, we've been fighting wars since before we figured out fire. We've been killing each other and everything else on our planet for millions of years. You want to know what we learned?" She paused, letting the question hang in the space between ships. "We learned that it's not the size of the fleet that matters. It's the size of the fight in the fleet." The transmission cut abruptly. Sarah turned to her tactical officer, Commander Rodriguez. "How long until they're in weapons range?" 14 minutes, ma'am. They're not rushing. They think this is already over. Good, that gives us time. Rodriguez, I want you to link our targeting systems with every other ship in the fleet. Full data sharing, real-time coordination. Make it so when one of us pulls the trigger, we're all pulling the trigger. Ma'am, that's never been attempted in actual combat. The processing requirements alone, Torres, reroute power from life support, artificial gravity, everything non-essential. I want our computers running so hot, they're practically melting. Park, open a channel to all ships in the fleet." The communication board lit up with acknowledgement signals from the other 6 Earth vessels. Captains Morrison, Patel, Okafor, Yamamoto, Reeves, and Kim all appeared on her screen. Good people, the best Earth had. "Ladies and gentlemen," Sarah began, "I won't lie to you. The odds are terrible. We're outnumbered, outgunned, and probably out of our minds. But I've been thinking about something my grandfather used to say. He was a Marine in the Pacific War, back when humans were still fighting each other with chemical explosives and metal bullets." She paused, seeing the faces of her fellow captains. "Fear, yes, but something else too. Determination, the same thing. That had carried humanity from caves to stone. He used to say that the most dangerous thing in the universe isn't the biggest predator or the strongest warrior. It's a cornered animal with nothing left to lose. Today, the Zephyrians cornered the wrong species." Captain Morrison from the U.S. Retribution spoke first. "What's the plan, Sarah? We fight like humans. They expect us to form battle lines, exchange long-range fire, fight by their rules. Instead, we're going to do what humans do best. We're going to adapt, improvise, and make them pay for every meter of space." The next 13 minutes were the longest of Sarah's life. Her crew worked with desperate efficiency, linking their ship's computers with the rest of the fleet. It was risky. It was experimental. It had never been tested outside of simulations, but it was human. It was crazy enough to work. "Zephyrian fleet entering weapons range in 30 seconds, reported. Rodriguez, all ships, remember the plan. We're not trying to win a stand-up fight. We're trying to hurt them badly enough that they think twice about tangling with humanity again." The first Zephyrian salvo was beautiful and terrible. Streams of coherent plasma that could melt through an asteroid. Force beams that could tear apart molecular bonds. Energy weapons that humanity was still decades away from matching. The space around Earth's fleet lit up like a dozen suns. But the human ships weren't where the Zephyrians expected them to be. Sarah's fleet had scattered the moment the shooting started, breaking formation in ways that violated every tactical doctrine in the book. Instead of presenting unified targets, they spread out in seemingly random patterns. Instead of concentrating their firepower, they attacked from 7 different vectors simultaneously. The Zephyrians had trained for 800 years to fight conventional battles. They were masters of formation warfare, strategic positioning, and overwhelming firepower. What they weren't prepared for was humanity's complete willingness to throw out every rule of space combat and fight like pirates. The EU's Defiance dove under the main Zephyrian formation, its railguns spitting tungsten projectiles at relativistic speeds. while the aliens tried to track her with their energy weapons. The UES Retribution came in from their starboard flank, launching a spread of nuclear torpedoes into their engine clusters. The U's Harmony performed a maneuver that should have been impossible, using her ship's own gravity generators to slingshot around a Zephyrian battleship and rake its unshielded rear with particle beam fire. "They're trying to reorganize," called out Torres. "3 battle groups moving to surround us. Rodriguez, target their command ships. If we can't outgun them, we'll outthink them." The human fleet's linked targeting system found its rhythm. What had started as 7 individual ships became something new. A single entity with 7 bodies, moving with perfect coordination while maintaining the unpredictability that made them impossible to counter. Captain Patel's ship, the UES Mumbai, performed a suicide run straight into the heart of the Zephyrian formation. But instead of ramming, she detonated an electromagnetic pulse device that fried every electronic system within 10 kilometers. In the confusion, Captain Okafor's U's Lagos slipped through the gap and put 3 fusion warheads into the Zephyrian flagship's reactor core. The explosion that followed could be seen from Earth's surface for the first time in 8 centuries. A Zephyrian fleet tasted defeat. Not just casualties, not just damaged ships. Actual, honest-God defeat. Their flagship was gone. Their formation was scattered. Their tactical advantage had been neutralized by an enemy that refused to fight by the rules. Supreme Admiral Vexter S. face reappeared on Sarah's view screen. This time, there was no amusement in those multifaceted eyes, only shock and something that might have been respect. "Captain Chen," the Admiral said slowly, "this engagement is concluded. The Zephyrian Empire... withdraws." 300 crystal ships turned and vanished into hyperspace, leaving behind only wreckage and the impossible truth. Humanity had faced the most powerful empire in the galaxy and made them blink first. Sarah slumped back into her captain's chair, suddenly aware that her hands were shaking. Around her, the bridge crew was cheering, but she felt only a cold certainty settling in. Her stomach. "Ma'am," said Torres quietly, "incoming transmission from Earth Command." Admiral Marcus Webb's weathered face appeared on screen, his expression grim despite the victory. "Outstanding work, Captain. All of you. But we both know this isn't over." Sarah nodded. "They'll be back. And next time, they'll bring more than 300 ships." "That's what I'm counting on," Webb replied, "because I've just authorized the largest military construction project in human history. The Zephyrians came here with 1 fleet and learned what humans can do when we're cornered. When they return, they're going to learn what we can do when we're prepared." Sarah looked out at the wreckage of the Zephyrian ships, floating like broken crystal in the void. Somewhere out there, in the depths of space, an empire was learning a hard lesson about humanity. They'd come expecting to find another weak species ready to kneel. Instead, they'd found wolves. When Earth's children came home 6 months after the Battle of Seoul. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the observation deck of the UES Defiance, watching something that would have been impossible to imagine before this came knocking. The shipyards of Luna had been transformed into the largest military production facility in human history. Where once a few dozen ships had been built per year, now hundreds of vessels took shape simultaneously under the harsh glare of industrial floodlights. But it wasn't just Luna. Mars had converted its entire industrial base to warship production. The asteroid mining stations had been refitted to produce armor plating and weapon systems. Even Earth's orbital elevators had been modified to lift massive ship components into space. Humanity had turned itself into a war machine, and it was beautiful and terrifying to behold. Impressive sight, isn't it? Admiral Webb's voice came from behind her. The old man had aged visibly in the past 6 months, the weight of preparing for interstellar war etched into every line on his face. How many? Sarah asked, not turning from the viewport. Final count came in this morning. 10 full fleets, each. One larger and better equipped than what we had at Seoul. Each one designed for a specific purpose. Webb moved to stand beside her. The Zephyrians taught us something valuable when they ran. They showed us that the galaxy's greatest empire could be made to fear humanity. Now we're going to teach them what that fear was really about. Through her earpiece, Sarah heard the familiar chime of an incoming priority transmission. The bridge. Crew of the Defiance had been monitoring Zephyrian communications for months, and what they'd learned was both encouraging and deeply concerning. "Captain," came the voice of Lieutenant Torres, "you're going to want to hear this. We've intercepted another transmission from the Zephyrian High Command." Sarah and Admiral Webb made their way to the bridge, where the main view screen displayed a translation of the alien communication. The message was from Supreme Admiral Vexter himself, and his words sent a chill down Sarah's spine. "All fleet commanders, Priority Alpha. The human species has been classified as Class 5 existential threat. Repeat, Class 5. This is the highest threat classification in Imperial history. The High Council has authorized the formation of the Grand Alliance. All member species will contribute their entire military forces for the elimination of the human threat. We cannot allow them to develop further. They must be destroyed completely." Admiral Webb's jaw tightened. How many species are we talking about? Torres worked his console, pulling up intelligence data they'd gathered over the past months. 47 member species in the Zephyrian Empire, sir. Conservative estimates put their combined military strength at over 5,000 capital ships, plus support vessels. The bridge fell silent. 5,000 ships. Even with their 10 new fleets, humanity would be outnumbered 10 to 1. The math was still impossible. But Sarah Chen was looking at something else on the tactical display. Something that made her smile for the first time in weeks. "Admiral," she said slowly, "I don't think they understand what they've done." "Explain." "They've united 47 different species against humanity. 47 different military doctrines, command structures, technologies, and tactical philosophies. They think numbers are going to win this war, but they've created the largest coordination nightmare in galactic history." Webb studied the display, and Sarah could see understanding dawning in his eyes. Divided command, multiple competing agendas, communication barriers. Exactly, at Seoul, we fought one enemy, with one tactical doctrine. Now we're going to face 47 enemies trying to fight as one. And if there's one thing humans excel at, it's exploiting chaos. The next 3 months passed in a blur of final preparations. The 10 human fleets were organized by specialty. Fleet Alpha, led by Sarah's Defiance, was built for speed and reconnaissance. Fleet Beta specialized in heavy assault. Fleet Gamma was designed for electronic warfare and disruption. Each fleet had a role to play in what Admiral Webb was calling Operation Broken Crown. The first sign that the plan was working came from deep space monitors along the rim of human territory. Zephyrian advanced scouts had detected the launch of the human fleets and reported back to their command. Within hours, the Grand Alliance began moving. 5,000 alien warships converging on human space in the largest military operation in galactic history. but they weren't moving as one cohesive force. Sarah watched the intelligence reports roll in and felt a predator's satisfaction. The Zephyrian fleet was maintaining its traditional formation discipline. The crystalline warriors of the Corvan Republic were moving in their ceremonial battle wedges. The insectoid hive clusters were swarming in their typical chaotic patterns. 47 different species, each fighting the way they'd always fought, expecting their enemies to do the same. They were about to learn otherwise. Fleet Alpha struck first, hitting a Zephyrian supply convoy at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. Sarah's ships came in fast and hard, targeting not the warships but the support vessels. Food supplies, ammunition, fuel, spare parts, everything an army needed to fight far from home. The convoy's guards were overwhelmed before they could send a distress signal. Fleet Beta hit next, appearing seemingly out of nowhere to smash a Corvan battle group that had been heading to reinforce the main fleet. Captain Morrison's heavy battleships tore through the ceremonial formations like they were made of paper. The Corvans had never faced an enemy that ignored their traditional challenge protocols and simply opened fire with maximum violence. But the real genius of Webb's plan became clear when Fleet Gamma made its move. Instead of attacking ships, they attacked communication. Captain Kim's electronic warfare specialists had spent months studying alien communication protocols, and now they put that knowledge to devastating use. False orders appeared on Zephyrian command networks. Navigation data was corrupted. Target identification systems began marking friendly ships as hostile. The Grand Alliance, already struggling to coordinate between 47 different military traditions, began to tear itself apart. Sarah watched the tactical display from the bridge of the Defiance as chaos spread through the alien fleet like a virus. A hive cluster, confused by corrupted navigation data, collided with a Zephyrian battle line. The resulting firefight lasted 3 hours before anyone realized they were shooting at allies. Status report from all fleets, she ordered. The responses came in quickly. All 10 human fleets were operating independently, striking at different points across a front that stretched across 3 star systems. To the aliens, it looked like humanity had somehow multiplied its forces. Attacks were coming from everywhere and nowhere. Supply lines were collapsing. Command structures were breaking down. And still, they hadn't seen the main human force, because there wasn't one. This was the lesson humanity had learned from 8,000 years of warfare on Earth. You didn't need to be stronger than your enemy. You needed to be smarter. You needed to make them defeat themselves. Supreme Admiral Vexter S. face appeared on Sarah's view screen for the final time. The proud crystalline features were cracked now, literally. Stress fractures ran through his translucent skin like spider webs. Captain Chen, the Admiral said, his wind chime voice now discordant and broken. We surrender. The Grand Alliance is dissolved. The Zephyrian Empire formally requests terms. Sarah looked around her bridge. Her crew had been through hell. Over the past weeks, fighting a running battle against impossible odds. They'd improvised, adapted, and overcome every challenge the galaxy's most powerful empire could throw at them. They'd proven that humanity didn't need to be the strongest species in the galaxy. They just needed to be the most dangerous. Admiral Vexter, Sarah replied, humanity accepts your surrender. Our terms are simple. The Zephyrian Empire will withdraw from all contested systems. Your member species are free to choose their own governments. and you will carry a message back to anyone else who might be thinking about threatening Earth." "What message?" Sarah smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "That this galaxy has new apex predators. We gave you 47 different species to fight us with, and you couldn't get the job done. So let me make this very clear. Humanity doesn't want to rule the galaxy. We just want to be left alone to explore, trade, and live our lives in peace." She paused, letting the words sink in. "But if anyone, anywhere, ever threatens Earth again, they won't face one experimental fleet like you did at Sol. They won't face 10 specialized fleets like you did here. They'll face 1,000 fleets, each one commanded by humans who learned from this war that the only way to guarantee peace is to make war so terrible that nobody ever wants to fight us again." The transmission ended, and Sarah turned to face her crew. 43 humans who had helped change the balance of power in the galaxy. They'd started as explorers and scientists, soldiers and engineers. Now they were something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. They were humanity unleashed. Admiral Webb's voice came over the comm system, reaching every ship in every fleet simultaneously. "All vessels, this is Fleet Command. Operation Broken Crown is complete. The Zephyr Empire has surrendered unconditionally. You are ordered to return to Earth for victory celebrations and fleet demobilization." But even as the cheers erupted on bridges across the human fleet, Sarah knew this wasn't really an ending. It was a beginning. Word of humanity's victory would spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Some species would see them as liberators who had freed 47 worlds from the Zephyrian Empire. Others would see them as the new threat that needed to be contained. Either way, humanity was no longer the unknown species hiding in the backwater systems of the Orion Arm. They were a galactic power now, with all the responsibilities and dangers that came with that status. As the Defiance turned toward home, Sarah looked out at the stars and wondered what challenges waited for humanity among those distant suns. Whatever came next, she was confident in one thing. The galaxy had learned to fear one human fleet. Then they'd learned to fear 10. Sarah had the feeling that before this was over, they'd learned to fear 1,000, because that was what humans did when threatened. They adapted, they overcame, and they made sure the threat never arose again. The age of human expansion was just beginning.